This video may contain offensive language or be frightening to some viewers. Viewer discretion is recommended. Hey, what's up everybody? It's me, Jordan, and I'm back with another drawing video. In this video, I'm going to be doing the no outline challenge again. I did it a couple of weeks back and had a lot of fun with it, and I felt like I learnt a lot from it as well. So I wanted to give it another shot. Again, I am doing an artwork based off a piece by Lakeness Oils. I'll leave a link in the description so you can follow him on Instagram. He posts really cool horror art, so I definitely recommend you check him out. Also, I will be reading 3 horror stories which were submitted to Reddit in the Let's Not Meet section, which are allegedly true. I'm very cynical and not easily convinced, so I don't know if they are, but I'll let you be the judge of that. So let's get into it, and I hope you guys enjoy. I just found this sub, and I wanted to share my own experience. It happened when I was 13, and it's something I've never forgotten. We had just moved into a brand new house in a new housing development. A lot of the houses around us were either unfinished or had families that had just moved in. Behind our house was a big field, mostly for future houses. We lived in a fairly safe and small city, and the housing development was very quiet, so for the first few years we lived there, we never bothered to lock the doors. Even at night, most of the time, it just wasn't something we thought about. My parents had just put in hardwood flooring, so the house was a pretty echoey single story. One night, as I was laying in bed, trying to fall asleep, I thought I heard the back sliding glass door open. I was up late on the internet, but everyone else was asleep, so the house was quiet. I had my door slightly open so my cat could come and go, so I knew I definitely was hearing something. I froze, hoping it wasn't the door, but a moment later, I heard it slide shut. Then I began to hear what sounded like heavy shoes walking across the hardwood floor. It was a very specific sound, and suddenly I couldn't breathe. The footsteps were slow and quiet, like they were trying to make as little noise as possible. But because the floor was wood and our house had high ceilings, the steps echoed down the hallway to my room. Then I heard them stop. The sound of the hallway closet being opened, and then the door quietly clicking shut. Like they had turned the knob, pulled the door closed, and then released the knob once it was in place. It was silent after that. My heart was beating so fast, and I began to cry. The only way to my parents' room was up the hallway. Their door was only about 20 feet from where that hallway closet was. I was frozen, and honestly, I thought I would pee my pants. I was so scared. However, it was silent for long enough that I knew I had to get my dad, so I looked up and walked sock-footed to my door. I stood there for a long time, breathing. Then I ran. It's not a long hallway, but as I went as fast as I could, I got inside their room and tried to wake my dad up. "Dad, Dad," I frantically whispered. "Huh?" He was half asleep. "Dad!" "Huh? What?" "Dad, I think there's someone inside the house." "What?" "Get up! I think there's someone inside the house." "There's no one in here. Go back to sleep." "Yes, there is." I started crying. That gets him up. My mum also wakes up at this point as well, so they both get out of bed. My dad, sure that there's no one in the house, doesn't even grab something as a weapon, but I follow behind him as he leaves the room. He goes into the living room, passes the closet, turns on all the lights in the house. I remember standing in the living room, knowing exactly where the person was, and not being able to say anything. He tells me, "Look, there's no one." But he doesn't check the closet though. And I don't tell him to. I'm so afraid that whoever is in there will jump out with a knife and kill my dad in front of me. And the 13-year-old me keeps thinking I can't be the one responsible for my dad's death. So I say nothing. And I don't tell him to check the closet. I don't know why he didn't, because if I were him, I would have. He locks the front door and tells me to go back to bed. They wait until I'm back in my room before they close their own bedroom door and go back to sleep. Again, the house is silent, and I'm laying there, afraid because that person is still there, in that one place he didn't check. Suddenly, I hear the closet door open, just as slowly and as quietly as before. Then the footsteps again. I could hear them so clearly walking towards the kitchen, where the back door is, and they stop. That's followed by the sound of the back door being slid open and then quietly being pushed closed again. I hear the back door click into place, and then the house is silent. I'm laying there crying and breathing heavily, but hearing them leave the house, I felt instant relief, though I was still shaking with fear. I give it a few minutes, hoping they wouldn't come back, and they don't. So after a bit, I sneak out there. My one and only thought is to lock the back door, which I managed to do, but the scariest part was that when I looked at the whole closet, the door wasn't closed anymore. It was open just a crack, because they hadn't bothered to close it after they left. Though I know it was definitely closed when my dad was out there with me. I tried bringing it up with my parents years later, but they still don't believe me. In the mid-80s, my mum was a cleaner in Australia. She would clean houses in suburban areas and would sometimes do houses in more rural areas near wineries and such. We lived near both. She would leave business cards at the local shops and got most of her business this way, and some through referrals and word of mouth. One day, she got a call from an old lady who sounded like she was in her 60s, asking Mum to clean her old farmhouse. She made a lot of odd demands, and Mum would usually meet clients before taking on new business, but in this case, the lady did not want to meet my mum and said she would leave the keys under the front doormat. Mum was a bit wary, but ended up agreeing, mainly because the lady was quite obviously wealthy and was offering to pay her substantially more than she would normally expect. Mum went to the house on a Monday morning and said she already felt unnerved by the long driveway. The house was essentially in the middle of a very large and very empty property. She found the keys and started cleaning. About an hour into the clean, she hears the back door shut. Mum was told that there would be no one in the house, so she immediately felt unsafe. She stood frozen in the kitchen for what she said felt like 3 to 4 minutes, although she said it could have been much longer. There was no other car on the property. She wanted to leave immediately, but had 2 rooms left to do. Both were bedrooms. She said as time passed and she heard nothing else, she decided that perhaps it was nothing, or perhaps something had fallen and it wasn't the door after all. She walked up the hallway and stepped into the bedroom. All over the bed were black and white photos. As Mum got closer, she realised the photos were all of her. Some were taken at our family home, and many others were taken at other houses Mum would clean, some through windows or over fences. Mum called the police using the house phone and immediately drove to the end of the driveway. The old lady ended up being investigated, but continued to claim it was a break-in. After some time, the police stopped with their searching, and we ended up moving to a new town 4 months later. Every time Mum tells me this story, I get serious chills. Absolutely a true story too. And to this day, my mum still thinks that that lady has something to do with it. But why? And for what purpose? I'm a 22-year-old female, and this incident happened a 1.5 years ago. I had just moved into my first apartment and was in the process of moving in. The door that led into my apartment locks itself automatically when closed, so I was going to the entrance of the apartment complex to get my mail while talking on the phone with my boyfriend. I returned to my apartment and sat on the bed while opening the mail while still using my phone. I accidentally dropped the phone to the floor and it landed under the bed. So I had to lie on the floor and stretch for it. I saw something that caught my eye. There was someone under my bed. My eyes widened and I choked the urge to scream. The person under my bed was lying with his back towards me and his head to his chest, so I couldn't see his face, and he didn't see me. Trying to be rational, while so many thoughts rushed through my head, I picked up the phone, said, "Sorry, I dropped my phone. I'm just gonna take a shower and call you back." The bathroom is right by my bed, so I hastily walked in, quickly locked the door, turned the shower on, and jumped out my window. My apartment is on the first floor, and then called the police. They told me to wait nearby, but to go across the street and see if anyone comes out the door to the apartment complex. This was during summer and it was still light out. I placed myself across the street, hiding behind a car, while watching my open bathroom window and the entry door. I called my boyfriend and he came to me just before the police. I gave them my keys and they went inside. Only moments later, 2 cops came out, holding a thin and tired-looking man. His eyes looked crazy, but he didn't try to get away. The policeman that had stood beside me and comforted me while the police searched through my house, I was a mess, shivering and crying, told me that the man stood outside my bathroom door with one of my kitchen knives, waiting for me to come out. This man had somehow crept in my entry door while I was getting my mail and hid under the bed. The man that was trying to hurt me turned out to be a homeless person and was placed in a mental hospital. My boyfriend moved in with me the next day. Thanks for listening. I just wanted to share my story so that others might know what to do if a situation like this occurs. The police told me that what I did was truly amazing and rational. If I had screamed, this could have ended really badly for me. In this video, I'm going to be doing the style challenge, which I don't think I really need to explain. It's pretty obvious. You draw a character and then you draw them in different art styles. I know, right? Just who would have thought that? Pretty much every artist on YouTube has already done this, and like usual, I am late to the bandwagon, but better late than never, right?